The misunderstanding that led to the absolute worst and best week of my life. 6 years ago, just over a year after high school graduation, a dude who was 20-year-old at the time, was studying in a transition to work program called Nova Employment, and just started doing my work experience to build my first work resume. I didn't have any particular success in any jobs until I started working in a tow bar factory where I had impressed my supervisors with how I was cutting and smoothing out the sharp edges of cut tow bars. It's basically me just applying the woodworking class skills from high school to a metalworking job, which apparently worked really well, and I was well on my way to get an official job there. The boss was very patient, professional, and very helpful with teaching me on how everything worked, and I was well on my way to start welding as I expressed interest in it on my lunch breaks. My dad even told me about how my grandfather, who had tragically passed away just 6 years before, about how he was doing the same thing as his first job, and told me that he's proud of me. But then about 2 months later, I got called into the manager's office thinking that I was finally going to be officially hired part-time, but the opposite happened. I was told that they can't afford to officially hire me since they're going to sell and shut down their business. It's the work equivalent for, "It's not you, it's me." Then once I finished my last day, I was yet again on the Nova Employment job hunt. Soon after, I was officially hired to a job. Great, right? Wrong. Because while I was job hunting, the term me and my old co-workers used to describe cutting and smoothing metal as metal polish it, and there lies a huge misunderstanding in what the Nova Employment job agency thought I was doing, since my official first job was working at a fiberglass factory that resided in an old abandoned army base. The first day, I was greeted by the man who would be my boss. He seemed nice and professional enough when we first met. He also had a massive amount of scar tissue on his right arm, seemingly from a shark attack. Then, once the formal introductions and obligatory factory workplace tour was out of the way, I was then handed a bottle and a rag, was told by my boss, "Wax polish that fiberglass container." I was extremely confused and understandably felt completely lost on what I was supposed to do. He asked, "What's wrong? Do your wax polishing thing?" And I said, "I don't know how." "Don't you wax polish metal?" "I cut and smoothed out the sharp edges of metal tow bars with a metal grinder. We just called it metal polishing because it's easier than metal smoothing." My boss then told me to just finish my job and had brang the Nova Employment agent who took me there into his office. I then heard them both having a not-so-inconspicuous loud argument coming from his office that echoed throughout the entire factory. First red flag. Then after that argument, I was sent home, since the first day was only spent showing me around and show the boss what I can do. But the very next day, everything started getting progressively worse. I started the day with wax polishing, which was fine, but soon after I was cleaning up bins, then I overheard him yelling at other employees for not being efficient enough, even though the factory workers were all entirely comprised of workers with varying disabilities, me included. Second red flag. The next day, I was told to sort tools, and I wasn't able to make heads or tails on what to do and sort. I didn't know what to do, so I kindly asked him if he could to teach me and make sure that I'm the same page on what to do, but instead he gets pissed off and frantically sorted the for me out of frustration while ranting, "Why the fuck did I bother hiring you if I have to do your fucking jobs for you?" Then he sends me on to rake the dirt duty on the side of the factory building, which he specifically points out is absolutely filled with snakes, and hands me the rake, then sends me off. Third red flag. The next morning after I'm dropping off, I, instead of clocking in to start my shift, walked away to the nearest bus stop, and while waiting for the bus, I had a glorious idea. He wants a job done, fine, but I'll do it my way, even if he hates the results. So I head back to work, clock in to start my shift. Oddly enough, he doesn't seem to even know that I was ever late at all, since he's preoccupied with yelling at other employees. So I started sweeping, then he called me over to tell me, go clean the entire bathroom. So I asked him, "Okay then, where's the mop and bucket?" He says, "There is no mop and bucket. Just use the fire hose and grab a rag." He then showed where the fire hose was and let me have at it while he moved on to the next employee to yell at. I tried to ask someone if they could help me, but nobody was answering, so I put my hands together and got to work. I set up the fire hose to point outside the bathroom window so it wouldn't spray everywhere inside the bathroom, but surprise, surprise, as I turned on the fire hose, it not only sprayed everywhere, it absolutely soaked everything in the bathroom: toilets, floors, walls, roof, and even the toilet paper wasn't spared. But this was pre-COVID, so it wasn't illegal yet. Lols. I was afraid to walk in there at first, since from the outside it sounded like bathroom was haunted. But I did go and I saw a fire hose was flying around everywhere, spraying everything in sight with gallons upon gallons of water like it had come alive. I frantically tried salvage the situation, but it just kept on getting exponentially worse, so I just gave up and turned off the hose and reeled it back into the wall mount, and as I finished my job I saw that the bathroom was now in such a state that it would even make Lano and Woodley proud. I then have my lunch and proceeded like nothing had ever happened, then finish my shift for the day. There's one last day of work, but it's not as particularly eventful as the day before other than the fact that a significant portion of the workforce didn't even bother coming in for work, which obviously pissed off while being completely oblivious as to why they've dipped, and we just painted the fiberglass containers all day, which was pretty chill and easy not to screw up, and while I was painting I accidentally got bits of fiberglass paint all over my work clothes and in my own hair. Yeah, that's an emergency haircut that I wasn't looking forward to. Fun fact, I still have the beanie stained with bits of fiberglass paint to this day, and the stains are still there. Lols. I guess he really loved that factory because the following Monday Christmas came early as I was notified by Nova Employment that I was fired and immediately shouted, "Oh my sweet Jesus, there is a God." I could only imagine what kind look that bastard of a boss had on his face, absolutely well worth the constant verbal abuse that he gave me and my fellow co-workers. Edit. This has been edited to correct spelling errors and add an extra segment that I originally excluded, thinking it would make original post too long to post. Bonus edit/update. I personally would like to thank everyone for the overflowing support in the comments and YouTuber Hellfreezer for his Reddit reading of my story on his channel. He did an amazing job. Also, to this day, I still don't have a job, nor do I think I can get one, since the cruel irony is the boss that was nice went out of business and can't be used as a reference, while the snappy angry boss who most likely still has his job to this day will never recommend me, and most likely go out of own way to ensure that I don't get employed ever again, since straight after graduating from Nova Employment, I was declared unfit for employment and have been living on the disability pension since then. Thank you, Hellfreezer. Thank you everyone else in the comments for the support. Extra bonus. Since Hellfreezer covered my story, I started watching other Reddit videos on YouTube and noticed that Smosh, an old YouTube channel that I used to watch years ago, has recently taken a liking to reading Reddit stories. If they're seeing this post, hi, big fan since the Ian playing with guns video.